Hey everyone, it's Marisa Williams, and today we're going to go over some confusing words. So this section is taken out of a book that I published last March called Eeerily Easy English, so to March 2019. There's some little things that I like to think of when I'm thinking of these confusing words. So let's go with our first culprit, accept and accept. I think of accept with an A as accepting an award. So if you think of award starts with A and I'm going to be accepting an award, like, thank you, I'm so glad you got this for me. Oh, thank you. So I am accepting an award. I'm taking it. Thank you, right? Starts with an A. That's how I think of that accepting. Okay. As they both begin with A. Accept with an accept, E-X, I think of Xing someone out. So we are excluding them, okay? So everyone except for you, we're Xing them out. So when we're crossing them out, excluding them, we're going to use accept with an E-X. So accept, A, accepting an award. Except with an X, everyone except for you, we're Xing you out, excluding you, okay? So exclude for the EX, think of it like that. All right, examples of this. Dahlia accepted an award, semicolon. The crowd was very accepting of her. Those are examples of where you could use it with an A. Everyone except Peter was there, so we're Xing him out. So everyone except Peter, so we're excluding Peter. So when we're excluding, it's the EX. All right, affect and effect. All right, with the E, think of cause and effect for effect. Effect is usually a noun, whereas affect is usually a verb. So a little trick. Try substituting the word alter, and if it fits, then use affect. So alter with the A for affect. Think of it like this. She did not know the side effects of her medication. So again, cause, effect. Think of stuff like smoking causes cancer. That's the effect of it, right? So effect. With the other example, she did not know if the medication would affect her skin. Now, let's substitute alter in there. She did not know if the medication would alter her skin. That works. Now, let's try it in that first example. She did not know the side alter of the medication. That just sounds weird, right? So that's how that works. When it sounds weird like that, it's not going to be that. So first one, side effects, always with an E, because think of cause and effect. And she did not know if the medication would affect or alter her skin. Okay, so think of it like that. All right, assure, insure, and esure, or usher, esure, insure. Okay, so to assure someone is to tell them it's definitely going to happen. So example, she assured him that she would be there. So yes, I will be there. This is going to happen, right? So that's like telling someone. Insure with an EN is to make sure it will happen. So you're making sure it will happen, right? So she wanted to ensure she would be there on time by leaving early. So that's EN. Associate insure with insurance. So I need to insure my boat. We're going to insure my car or insure my house with insurance. I'm going to pay for it, right? So I am going to benefit from that, from my insurance of my stuff. So it starts with an I. So think of I for insurance. Insure, again, you're going to make it happen. Assure, you're telling someone it's going to happen. And let's look at that last example. She did not expect to have an accident and hoped it would not affect her insurance rates, or she may not be able to get anyone to insure her car. So think of I for insurance. All right. These two people love to confuse breath and breathe. So I can take a breath, or I can breathe. right? Think of a dog breathing his hot breath on you. Okay, so when taking a breath, breath is a noun, signifying air going into our lungs. After the accident, she struggled to take a breath. Struggled for air to go into her lungs, right? To breathe is our verb. That's the action of actually inhaling and exhaling. That's the verb. We're doing it, right? So she felt like she could not breathe after the accident. So just remember, the verb is going to have an E at the end for breathe. Breath is going to be a noun. So that's going to be the difference between the two on that one. All right. We got capital and capital with an AL versus an OL. And capital with an AL can mean money, a capital letter, and the capital of a state or country, but the word capital with an OL only refers to the building where legislators meet. So, example of that, she raised enough capital, as in money, AL, to visit the Capitol, OL, building in Washington, D.C. Again, OL only means the building where legislators meet, right? The Capitol building, right? Specific place in Washington, D.C. Compliment. All right, I think of compliment with an I as in I'm complimenting you. So I'm saying like, oh, that's a nice hat you got on there, right? So I'm giving you a compliment. So if I compliment you, such as what a nice shirt you're wearing, then use compliment with an I. Compliment with an E is something that completes another. So think of the E as completing. All right, so after I complimented her on the delicious food, again, compliment with an I because I'm complimenting her, we talked about how the port wine complements the dark chocolate dessert as the two pair nicely together. Notice that port wine pairing is with an E because it completes it, making it a nice pair, right? All right, dessert and desert. Think of the extra S being extra good, so dessert is something we eat. Ooh, I want dessert. I want something I can eat. Extra S, I want more of it, right? Good stuff, dessert. The desert is that hot place with the cactus, right? So, yeah, not quite the same. So, let's look at that example. Ice cream might be a nice dessert to eat in the desert if it would stay cold and not melt in the hot sun. So again, dessert has that extra S because I want more of it. It's so yummy and tasty. Dessert, think of it, it's deserted around here. So we're going to take away that extra S because it's like the barren land of the desert. We don't have more, we have less. So we're going to take away that extra S. That's the way I remember it. All right, it's versus its. People love to confuse these. All right, the way it's so confusing is it's almost opposite of what we normally think of. Normally, we think of apostrophes to show possession, but it's kind of the opposite with this pair. In this case, IT apostrophe S will always stand for it is. ITS shows ownership. So this is going back to our French heritage, and when we take a letter out, we can put an apostrophe in to put in place for that letter. So IT apostrophe S, you're missing a letter, so it's going to be it is. Whereas ITS is going to be that ownership, right? So let's look at an example. The cat licked its fur. The cat owns its fur, right? So it's an ownership. It's licked its fur, no apostrophe. Whereas if we say it's going to be a hot day or it is going to be a hot day, then it's IT apostrophe S. All right, we got lead and lead. All right, so LEAD is the most confusing because it can be the lead of a pencil or it can be to lead a group around, right? So to lead is a verb and LED or lead is the past tense of that verb. And like I said, LEAD can also mean a type of metal that rhymes with bed and sounds like lead. So it sounds like LED, technically spelled L-E-A-D. So that's why it confuses so many people when we're talking about the lead in a pencil, L-E-A-D, right? Let's look at those examples. She will lead them in a chorus, L-E-A-D, she's leading. Or, next example, they were led by the girl who instructed them to grab a lead pencil. So that last example, both of them sound the same, used totally different ways, right? So a lot of people love to get confused by these because lead and lead can be spelled the same way, depending on how you mean it. But L-E-A-D can be lead as in you're the leader, or the lead of a pencil. L-E-D is the past tense of lead. So we've got this, right? All right, moving on. Loose and lose. All right, so I think of when a person's wearing baggy clothes, we can say loose because it has an extra O in there, right? So think of it so loose, it has room for that extra O. So loose clothing has that extra O. Whereas when we lose, it's the opposite of winning. I think we're gonna take that extra away because we lost it. Oh my gosh. All right, let's look at the examples. The boys were told to pull up their loose pants that were hanging down. They will likely lose to the highest ranked team next game. All right, so loose, extra O, because so baggy, and losing that extra O because we lost it. Principal and principal, as I like to think of it. Principal, P-A-L, that's just going to be the principal at the high school. He's not necessarily your pal, right? That's how I think of it. So principles are like standards and ethics, so P-L-E-S. It can also mean an amount of money, such as with a loan. We're going to pay off a principal of a loan, for example. Whereas the principal is likely the person in charge of the school who may not necessarily be a pal, as I mentioned. All right, examples. The principal gave her after-school detention. Not necessarily her pal doing that. Anyways, cheating goes against her principles. So that's her ethics or standards, right? So she didn't believe in it, right? All right. Stationary and stationary. All right, with an A, I associate it with the word stay, as in staying in place, like a stationary bike. With the letter E, stationary, I associate it with pretty, such as pretty stationery that a person will write on. So while most people liked flowers, she preferred to use skull stationery to pen her letters. Notice that's with an E, pretty stationery, right? Though he rode 9 miles, it was on a bike that was stationary. It stayed in place. So A, stationary with an A. Then versus than. Oh my gosh. So many people love to mess these up. All right. And then that's chronological ordering, such as what would happen next, whereas than is more of a comparison. Okay. So think of that. Then, as in first, second, then, next, right? Than is this is better than that, okay? All right, so we went to a haunted house, then we watched a movie. First we did that, then we did this, right? I like haunted houses more than fun houses, so that's our comparison, right? All right. This next example has a typo in it. Yes, even the best of us make mistakes, so you will see that, but that's okay. All right, so there, and there. People love to confuse these. T-H-E-R-E is a location. T-H-E-I-R has an I in it, so I think of it like I for ownership, as in I own this is mine. It's ownership, right? Mine, I. There, T-H-E-Y, apostrophe R-E, once again, goes back to our French heritage, and that is the exception because it's an apostrophe, and we're saying they are. So when we say they are, it will always stand for they are. T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E. right? So when deciding which of the three to use, substitute they are where the word will be used, and if it doesn't make sense, don't use there. Okay? So they are is always going to be the apostrophe. T-H-E-I-R-E-I-R, I for ownership. E-R-E, over there, it's location, right? So there, they are going to their cabin that they own, right? There, over Yonderville, right? Location. So they're going to their cabin over there. All right. 2, 2, and 2. People love to mess these up too. All right. T-O-O, I always think of excessive. So there's so much O's. It's so much. We got room for that extra O at the end, right? So I think of it like also. Like I want to go to. I want to go also. When T-O-O is used to mean also, and it's at the end of the sentence, it should get a comma before it. However, when it is used to mean excessive, then you don't need a comma. So if it means excessive, no comma is needed. T-W-O is a number, like the number 2, 1, 2. And T-O is a preposition. Often seen in prepositional phrases, sometimes signifying where someone is going. So those 2 girls, number 2, said they want to go, to. So notice, to at the end of that sentence, you have a comma before it, as in they want to go also. But if I was to say they drank too much, I would not use a comma in that because it would mean excessive amount of drinking, right? So, all right. Who's who, that who's, whom, and whom. Tongue twister right there, sorry about that. Who is used more as a subject, occurring often at the start of a sentence. Whom is used more like an object, finding itself placed more towards the middle or the end of a sentence. Who, apostrophe S, who is a contraction for who is, going back to that French heritage. And if you can substitute those words, then you'd use that contraction. Whose is showing ownership. So whose pen is this, right? All right. So example, who is calling? Notice at the beginning of the sentence. There's an exception with whom is at the beginning of the sentence because it's a question, but whom should I say is calling? That's used as an object, though. It's not the subject, it's an object. Who's calling, as in who is calling, and I remember the caller whose voice is deep like Barry White. Whose voice, ownership, so that's why we're not using the contraction in that one, right? All right. Your and your, again, your shows ownership, whereas Y-O-U apostrophe R-E is a contraction for you are. You're going to ruin your new shirt playing in the mud. So your, without any contraction, that's just ownership. So your shirt, your pencil, your paper, whatever. Whereas you, with the apostrophe R-E, is always going to say your, like you are. You're going to the store. You're going to study. You're going to do awesome on this test. Right? So those are just some examples of some of those commonly confused words. I hope that helps y'all out, and have a beautiful rest of the day, y'all.